All right, it is January 31st, last day of January, and let's jump into it. What's happening in Chicago this week? Well, there's one big story this week, and that was that the Office of the Inspector General of Chicago, essentially an oversight ethics agency, released a report saying that the Mayor Johnson's administration accepted gifts like jewelry and alcohol and all that good stuff and failed to properly report it or make the room where they stored the gifts available to the Inspector General. They refused admission. And so it's just another major self-own from the Johnson administration, when literally all they had to do to be in keeping with previous administrations, what previous administrations had done was to just keep a list of the gifts. That's all. That previous administrations, I think, also hadn't made the gift room available for the Inspector General. And so that wasn't even a big deal, but they did keep a list of the donors. That's all they had to do with the list, the names of the gift givers, but they couldn't do that. So it seems like most of these stories from the Johnson administration are more about like not knowing and incompetence rather than just actual corruption. But that didn't help all the headlines from shouting about that. In a larger context is that the last few weeks, the mayor has already been dealing with headlines about failing to report campaign donations from, including from lobbyists, which seemed like another example of just not knowing what he was supposed to do, of incompetence rather than outright corruption. So that was the big story this week. The rest is just a bunch of kind of quick hits. So I'll run through them quickly. Michael Madigan, the former Speaker of the House in the last couple of weeks, that trial's still ongoing, but the jury's in deliberation now, so we should soon see a result. That'll be big political news. The Obama Presidential Center, one of its subcontractors, is suing over discrimination and cost overruns. I think it doesn't want the blame for the cost overruns, so that may mean that the Presidential Center takes a little bit longer to make. A state board approved $18 million in funding for overdose prevention sites, allowing people to use drugs in public spaces where clinicians can make sure that they're safe. This is something that cities like Portland, Oregon, and I think Seattle and San Francisco have trialed to actually negative to mixed results so far. So it's interesting that Chicago is now adopting it, potentially. The CPS CEO said that he basically thinks that the CTU is not going to strike because they're pretty close to a deal, so that's good. Elon Musk called J.B. Pritzker fat on Twitter, and J.B. Pritzker responded by calling him a Nazi. We'll probably see a lot more name-calling about Chicago politicians soon, including related to the fact that Mayor Johnson is reportedly likely to be called to testify in front of Congress about Chicago being a sanctuary city. So we'll probably see him in a national spotlight soon, along with mayors of Boston, New York, and SF. The Museum of Science and Industry got $10 million to renovate its south patio, so it'll be looking a little prettier near the cherry trees soon. The Chicago Tribune got a bunch of Mayor Johnson's texts. No big story came out of it, which is actually kind of impressive. You can imagine thousands of texts, something's going to be bad, but nothing big came out of it, though there were some texts showing him keeping an eye on Susana Mendoza and Alexei Giannoulis, I can never say his name, the potential mayoral challengers, the front runners. So he clearly sees them as challengers too. There wasn't, this is a no news is good news situation of the last week. There wasn't huge news about giant ice raids, though there were some. Tom Homan, the border czar, went on Fox News to basically just complain that people in Chicago were too aware of their rights, which made it difficult to round people up. So that's relatively good news that they'll probably continue to try and come back to Chicago. I don't think it's over. And then lastly, I gotta have some good governor-mayor drama. J.B. Pritzker was in a sit-down interview and pretty directly and explicitly criticized Mayor Johnson, in part for the whole hemp debacle, the synthetic hemp fight, which was very silly, and partly for him asking for tons of money from Springfield, from the state, and complaining when not getting it, but never doing any actual relationship building work in Springfield and failing to call JB and talk to him and build a relationship. So that feud is ongoing, and that's the week this week. I actually got it in under 5 minutes. I'll see you next week.